So, I want to talk about VTM today.
Playhouse.
And that's Vampire the Masquerade. Bloodlines? Or Bloodhunt? Actually, we're going to talk about both. Originally, I was going to talk exclusively about Bloodhunt since it's the new thing, but I have so very little to say about Bloodhunt that I thought it might not be worth the trouble. But I haven't talked about the Masquerade Bloodlines, so why not make it a double feature? Now, based off of what I've just said, you're probably thinking, Eris, you hate new video games. Of course you're not going to like Bloodhunt. And I would like to remind everybody that Gundam Evolution isn't out yet, and that was genuinely fantastic. Absolute blast, fun game. My only complaint is that it isn't out yet, and it lives in my head rent-free. I cannot wait to get my hands on that game some more. It was so much fun. I know it's going to be free when it comes out, and I recommend everybody try it, but the reason I bring all that up is because Bloodhunt had a chance. A genuinely fair chance in order to impress me. Bloodhunt kind of lost in all of the situations it possibly could. I personally encountered a very obnoxious bug trying to sign in, and it took me several days to find out that the solution to that sign-in problem was to verify the game files through Steam, which wouldn't have been that big of a deal if I didn't have to do that pretty much every time I wanted to play the game. Okay, so I just want to throw this out there right out of the gate, -2 points. Like full stop, like we don't even... I know you're probably thinking, Eris, how can you already be down on a game that you haven't even had a chance to play yet? I want to know how a game like APB Reloaded, a game that refuses to die, and that came out years ago, managed to nail their login process from the word go with no issues. But this game, a brand new release, you have to jump through hoops in order to get it to work on Steam properly. That's what I want to know. The game also had a lot of performance issues, and I've kind of learned my lesson with bashing a game for bugs and performance issues, because those things usually get patched. And yeah, I know that they get patched. The problem is, though, that when you combine that with the login and the fact that there's no tutorial, you have pretty much all of my least favorite things wrapped up into a perfect bundle. On top of it being a free-to-play live service game with a battle pass. It's just a perfect storm of things that I can't stand. But that's not to say that I didn't have any fun at all, because what gameplay I was able to experience, there was something kind of there. But that something kind of went against a lot of the rules of game design that I kind of cling to. It is a competitive battle royale, and I mean, look, the tone kind of kills itself. Kills the game, kills the concept. It's vampires, so you're not going to have the maps during the day. Okay. Bloodlines takes place Bloodlines takes place in Los Angeles, California, which means you're only really going to get a city type of aesthetic at night. I get that. But because of the fact that it has to be in the dark, and it has to be in a city, the colors that they've used means that it's rarely single-toned as far as colors go. And that's not too big of a problem, but the player characters don't really stand out in that environment. I don't know if the game was supposed to be like creatures of the night skulking around and sneaking up on each other, or if it was supposed to be a contest between which vampire can drink the most blood without being hunted by other vampires, or a downright battle to see whose claws or whose fangs are the sharpest. The game doesn't really tell you what the sort of mentality is going forward. So I don't really know if it's supposed to be stealth, if it's supposed to be like PvP, VE type of thing, or if it's just supposed to be grab a gun and go shoot some enemies. It is a battle royale, and it does work on the rules of last player standing, but there's a lot of extra stuff in there, and it just confuses things. For example, you can, there are humans placed about throughout the city that you can drink their blood. You'll get a temporary buff from them. But I didn't know if we were supposed to run around and just drink as much human blood as we could, or what. Like, I didn't know if those buffs stacked or if they were like consumable items. I had no idea. Also, because there's no tutorial, there are different races of vampire that all have their own different special abilities, but I didn't get a chance, like, while you're selecting your character, which by the way has a countdown, you get to read what their skills do. Now, I'm all for staying in character and keeping a tone and being thematic, but when I read a skills description, I want a very clear idea of what to expect from that, especially if I'm going in blind. But instead, what happened was I would read what it was supposed to do and go, okay, it's cool that you have it all toned up to be like vampire-y and all of that, but what does that mean as far as like the game and the gameplay? Like, what is that going to do for me as the player? I didn't know. There's a lot of design choices like that where it's like, neat, but why? Why should we interact with this? What's the point? The main hub has NPCs in it that you can talk to and accept quests from, but the only way that you get items, which the only thing there is in this game is cosmetics to unlock, and the only way that I saw that you could do that was by the battle pass. The battle pass has, of course, the free side and the premium side. I was not about to spend any money on this. I'm just gonna tell you right now, I wasn't about to spend any money on it. But it was like, okay, you've added NPC quests. Why would we bother? You didn't tell us if there's going to be a reward, and I did by accident complete one of them. It didn't seem to do anything. No extra XP on the battle pass, no item unlocked, nothing. I was kind of glad that I completed it by accident, because if I had gone out of my way to complete it, only to find out that there was no reward, I would have been very upset. The moment-to-moment combat in BLOODHUNT isn't all that bad. It's a third-person shooter, and loot is pretty well distributed. I haven't had any situations where I loaded into a match and couldn't find a weapon. But there's something about the movement that is just kind of jank and stiff. Primarily when you have to climb up the side of buildings. You're essentially holding forward and repeatedly spamming the jump button to kind of like Spider-Man power leap your way up the side of it. But on a lot of those buildings, when you get to the roof kind of overhangs at an angle, and you can't like crawl backwards to get over the top of it. So it was really awkward, and just, it didn't feel great to climb up a building. It made me feel like a creature of the night. It made me feel like a disoriented spider trying to escape the rain. And in moments where you trying to like climb up something to get into combat or get out of combat, it just didn't feel good. Plain and simple, it didn't feel good, and I didn't want to do it. So if I was in the middle of a fight and I fell off of a rooftop or something, I didn't bother trying to climb back up, because that just made me an easy target to shoot. That I know of, there's no way to turn while holding onto the side of a building and fire from it or anything, which would have been a neat option to kind of defend yourself while you're climbing. But yeah, that's not a thing. Also, the jump, you're supposed to be like jumping from rooftop to rooftop. Which, by the way, a lot of the fights in this game are going to take place on the roofs. And the colors, like I said, they're muted to the point where it's difficult to see other players. And when you do see other players, depending on where they're at, you might mistake them for NPCs, which happened to me several times. And another big complaint I have is that, yes, they're vampires and they sneaky, but competitive shooters like this work because there's something distinct about everything, right? So in Overwatch, it's the colors. You see an enemy Reinhardt, you know what an enemy Reinhardt looks like. You know that it's a big, bulking silhouette that you can pick out. And you're familiar with that. In Apex Legends, it's the sound. You can hear footsteps. Some of them are lighter, some of them are heavier, some of them are faster or slower. But you know, okay, there's somebody near me.
Yeah, cool. I'm just gonna
you can close your eyes and you'll be like, okay, I hear something. Even if you don't know what direction it's coming from, you hear it. Vampire BLOODHUNT doesn't have that. There were tons of times when I thought that my squad was nearby, only to turn a corner and be face to face with an enemy player. And a lot of the times they were just as stunned as I was, and it led to a lot of moments of us like running around each other like idiots until one of us is like, oh, enemy, shoot, right, we shoot those. So all in all, BLOODHUNT wasn't really my thing, and it's a real bummer because Celine Totsky is somebody I follow a lot. She plays Apex Legends and she's a very competitive person, but she understands what makes that type of competition fun. And I really value her opinion when it comes to stuff like this because she knows what people will and won't like on both a casual and a hardcore level. So when she said that there was some fun to be had with BLOODHUNT, I was like, oh, absolutely. Let's say no more. But there were a whole lot of technical issues on top of design issues on top of personal hangups. And I'm not feeling it. I do not feel it at all. It is a far cry from Bloodlines, which is a game that has been out forever, does have some very distinct visuals and sounds, and a story and personality that just... There's a reason that people are still thinking about and still talking about this game that looks... Let's be honest. Bloodlines is old looking, and it has not aged well. It's ugly. And no mod that you can install, there's no workaround for it. The game looks like it's running on a different version of Windows. And that's not inherently a problem. But BLOODHUNT is supposed to be the multiplayer portion of the sequel to Bloodlines. And I'm kind of hoping that the single player, whatever they've been working on all this time, doesn't play like BLOODHUNT, because I can't imagine a single player campaign with this amount of yikes. Bloodlines was a jank game, but we all kind of just assumed that it was jank because it was of the times. The technology just wasn't there. BLOODHUNT was their chance to say, hey, open your mind to the idea of a newer installment of this game that does have multiplayer, and it kind of just it's not sticking. And I think that's all that I really want to talk about today, because I've said the word blood so many times that it started to sound kind of weird. But let me know what you think about the Vampire the Masquerade. Is it a series now? Is that what we're calling it? Hey, is Vampire the Masquerade a series? Yeah? Ugh. Gross. Let me know what you think about Vampire the Masquerade down in the comments below. I know that it is based off of a tabletop game that I haven't had the pleasure to play yet, but I might look into it at some point. Anyway, that's all from me. I hope to see you guys later, and as always, thank you for watching.